Anger, jealousy, despair. This is what people in the TDS community usually feel when they hear about the War Machine, or so it feels like. Reddit, Discord, Twitter, YouTube, there are thousands of complaints about that on the first glance innocent tower everywhere. But why? Why do so many people care about the tower, and why is it unobtainable to most people in the first place? Today, we will dive into the history of the one and only the War Machine. Let's begin. War Machine was originally meant to be a commander or a minigunner skin back in almost 2020, as seen in the image. However, developers had other plans for the skin. The skin apparently looked so good and original that they decided to make it into a tower, an exclusive one. And so the War Machine Tower was born on May 26, 2020. It was only available to moderators and admins of the TTS Discord server, as well as developers and below obviously. As a tower, it wasn't actually anything crazy despite what some people believed. It was just a commander copy and paste with 10 placement limit, who was actually way stronger. Also, commander was not that great anyway after the insane nerf it received back in 2019. It even shared the lack of hidden detection. However, War Machine had another thing going for it, a passive damage boost to towers within range. The boost was 10% on level 3 and 4, which increases to 20% on level 5. This was really impressive back then, as the only other tower that gave direct damage boost was John, via its ability, which gave damage boost for a couple of seconds, and even that did not last long. The Jet did not give damage boost either, and Mercenary Base did not exist yet. It was truly one of a kind. I can't really comment on how good it was in terms of performance and usability, because only like 20 people had it, but I assume it was pretty overpowered. Some people wanted the War Machine, but most probably did not even know it existed. Overhaul update arrived, and most towers got eviscerated. War Machine was not one of them, however. In fact, it received a buff. Damage and range was increased on multiple levels. However, there was a really funny bug that made War Machine have the best async cost efficiency in the game's history. Basically, level 2 gave War Machine plus 12 damage instead of 2, so it dealt 104 CPS for $2,900. How do we know that was a bug and not a feature? Well, level 3 gave minus 9 damage to the tower, basically being a downgrade instead of an upgrade. Level 3 War Machine is supposed to deal 5 damage, so that checks out, because 14 minus 9 equals 5. Oh, and also, apparently War Machine could not be upgraded, even so then I have no idea how the plus 12 damage bug was found out. Anyway, they also fixed upgrade descriptions that were incorrect when the tower was first released. Funnily enough, neither of these bugs was fixed until the Big Frost Invasion update of 2021, which was basically due to the tower being owned by like 20 people, and normal players could not even access it, so it fixing it was not a priority. However, before that, a nowadays controversial announcement that caused many troubles was released by none other than Rework at the end of 2020. It was your average pre-New Year post that said stuff about the game's future, and stated that the Frost Invasion event will be released on the final day of December, which did not happen. However, one of the stuff promised was the release of troops, including Hacker, Mecha Base, and today's topic, War Machine. This basically at the time confirmed that War Machine will eventually be released to the public. Keyword, at the time. The post is now deleted, at least I could not find it and had to steal it from Soul's video. Nothing major happened for a couple of years aside from a couple of bugs until December 11, 2024, where the War Machine was severely buffed to some ridiculous level. I mean, just look at the stats before and after. They probably did it to update the tower's strength to make it pretty overpowered again, as it was not buffed for like 4 years. The meta evolved significantly, and enemies had way more HP, so the War Machine was not even that impressive anymore, especially now that Red DJ and Mercenary Base exist at this point in time. So its damage boost was not one of a kind either. Also, it finally received a hidden detection at the final level, and went with wit and flight detection as well. Also, the final upgrade name was fully capitalized, that's very important. And now we reach the fun part, but before that, consider subscribing, thank you. A couple of weeks before this rebalance, TTS's roadmap was updated to include 2 new additions, War Machine and Max God. No one cares about Max God, and I don't either, and that's not even his video, so we will ignore him. Taking a look at the War Machine's part, people quickly realized that this tower is to remain exclusive. Despite Rework's announcement back in 2020, this time expanded to contributors to the list of people who can possess this tower. In total, according to this, you need 15 contributions to obtain this tower. What counts as a contribution, I don't know, not even people who have War Machine know. People were outraged, it was bad, some were even sending death threats to developers. Below had to react fast, and so he quickly posted a statement regarding the situation. To summarize, War Machine's assets were made by contributors, so no development time was wasted on them. Rosuatik's statement can be made irrelevant because, according to Below, they were made out of touch with his vision and without his permission. And that's that point I couldn't really understand, sorry. The statement wasn't that good. First point was the only valid one because War Machine's assets were indeed made by a third party. Second point makes no sense because why would Below wait for years after Rosuatik's left to say that his posts are now misinformation, and if the post was made without his permission, why did he do nothing back in 2020 when this was posted? He is the owner after all. And third point, again, I couldn't really understand it unfortunately, it's worded extremely weirdly. The statement, as you would expect, did not really do well in terms of damage control and people were still mad. Also the fire did die down eventually, like all dramas do. It did come back though. July 17, 2026 was the day when Keeping got released, and along with it the War Machine was reworked with new animations and design along with new stats obviously. Stat-wise, it's the best tower in the game, by a big margin. Just look at this monstrosity. What did you expect from a Gatekept tower? Not only does he deal almost 1000 DPS at the final level, it now also applies fire rate and rage buff on top of damage buff. Also, it now has an ability that spawns 2 railgun tanks on level 4 and 3 tanks on level 5. And people were mad. Again. It wasn't as bad as previously, but there were still death threats allegedly. The reason was that the War Machine was Gatekept still, as making even a single contribution that makes it into the game is already impossible for most of the player base, let alone 15. All in all, this was the history of the War Machine, and the release of this video. But there is one more question we need to attempt to answer. Why was the such wanted tower never released to the public? I don't know. I don't think anyone knows. We never got an official answer aside from we want to reward our contributors, which as you would expect is a really poor answer. But some people got a theory, a game theory perhaps. This theory builds from a hypothetical question this content creator asked one of the developers about the release of the tower to the public, which they replied with would have to be nerfed a lot. Basically, the only reason that War Machine is so hyped up and wanted is because of how powerful it is. It is in fact the best tower in the game and wins you everything. If this tower was released to the public, it had to be nerfed really hard in order to keep the game balanced. The stat buffs will need to be tuned down to like 5%, DPS heavily decreased, cost increased, and Rigo tank ability likely removed. With everything done, War Machine will just turn into an amalgamation of Pursuit and DJ. Its hype will be gone, because its pretty overpowered performance is its hype. Therefore, its release will be underwhelming and people will be disappointed. This is why this tower never made it into the shop. But hey, that's just a theory, a game theory. That was all I can say about the War Machine. This tower has caused many controversies due to being Gatekept, but is it Gatekept for good? Or will it in some form make it to the public? We will see, also I do not have high hopes for it. Thank you for watching and I'll see you next time. Goodbye.